to yet another episode of the NOYC Godcast. I was confused. Where are we at? What are we doing?
Nobody knows what we're doing.
So we have been talking all about frightened faith this month. And if you haven't went back and watched our previous episodes, there's two other ones? Two other ones?
2.5. Like two, and then you have like the interview.
Yeah, okay. So go back and watch those ones if you haven't yet. They're really good. So today, this is I feel like a really common lesson, the whole lesson in general, and to like the story we're doing. But it just CJ kind of helped me come up with it. It was just like kind of something that, I don't know, he was just like, this would be a good story. So we just kind of expounded on it. But we're talking about the 12 spies today, and that they go out to check out the land of Canaan. So I was reading this little thing on it, and it was like, why did God send them out? Like, he knew what the land looked like. Yeah. It wasn't like he was like,
you go check
that. Go see real quick. I want to know.
You go check that, and then I'll see if that's the promised land.
Right, yeah. So he sent them because he was testing them. It wasn't like he was like, I don't know if this is possible. Go spy on it. We'll see if it's possible.
I think, that's the thing, is like, it wasn't about him. It was about them.
Right. It was about seeing what they would do and how they felt. And so he wanted to test to see if they would have faith or fear. Out of the 12 spies that go out, there were two very different opinions of the land that they had spied. So two of them had faith. Numbers 13:30 says, and Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, let us go up at once and possess it, for we're able to overcome it. Like, you just let us go right now. Let's go. And then in verse 31, the other 10 say, but the men that went up with them said, we're not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we.
Like giants. Grapes that are the size of tables.
Right. So those 10 feared, and the other two had faith. Joshua and Caleb trusted God would and could keep his promise, which was to give them that land, right? They end up making it to the promised land, right? Yeah. They get to go into the promised land. The other 10 spies, they feared. Yeah. They went, they saw the same thing as Josh and Caleb, Joshua, not on a first name basis with him. But yet they had fear, and that kept them from what God had promised them. And so I said that sentence already. I got ahead of myself. So their fear was bigger than their faith, right? Yes. What they saw.
I think a life application of this is a lot of camp stuff. So camp is kind of a big deal. It's not like something that the Saturday before we're like, we probably should put stuff together for this. It's a large production. And so a live application of this is like when we have an idea of something, and then everyone's like, that doesn't sound like that's going to work. And then we're all like, yeah, it is.
Well, the first time someone comes on board and they start helping us actually put together the things, and we're like, okay, so this is our to-do list. And we give them the 50-page book, and they're by camp. And we're like, yep. Yeah. And it's
a month away.
Yep. We're actually ahead of this game.
Yeah, we're ahead of the game. Why do we need painted coffee stirrers?
We don't know.
Honestly, we just keep on copy and pasting things from years before. We don't need them.
We're doing the same projects. But yeah, exactly. So the difference was they saw the same thing. They went out and saw the land. Joshua and Caleb came back, and they're very we got this. Let's go. Yeah. No, I can't do this. God's going to do this. We're good.
They weren't looking at themselves.
Right. And the other 10 were very much looking at themselves we cannot do this. Yes. And even when Joshua and Caleb were like, well, what about God? They still were like, no. And they got the other Israelites wound up, and they're all like, no, we can't do this. And so, exactly. And so Joshua and Caleb were focused more on their faith in God and what he could do. The other were focused on their fears of what looked impossible. Yes. I know I talked about this when we were talking with Matt, but the whole Kari's birth was a smack in the face with fear for me.
Yep.
Long story short, I was terrified of a C-section. Yes. I never had surgery. I had never had, besides having kids, I was never in the hospital. Yeah. And my other two were kind of a rough birth.
But you still didn't have
But I still didn't have to have a C-section, right. And so I knew that I didn't want to have surgery. I knew that recovery might be a little harder. And with having two littles at home, I didn't want to have a harder recovery. And as I was in labor, every time I would progress, the contractions would get closer and stronger. Kari's heart rate would drop. Yep. Not off, but it would get low.
They wouldn't be able to find it.
Yeah. So there's times we lost it. There was times the doctor's it's we got to stop the medicines and let her heart rate come back up. And it was actually at one point the doctor was I wasn't allowed to eat anything But the doctor was forcing me to eat those frozen lemonades.
Oh, the lemon ices.
Yeah, and like because every time I eat that, Corrie liked it so much that her heart rate would come back up. So like the doctor was forcing me to eat these, and like
to this day, she's still like that. Food is the way.
Food is still the way to get her going, but I don't like those things.
Yeah.
So after 20 hours of labor, the same thing. Progress would equal lower heart rate.
Yes.
I was getting discouraged. I had prayed and prayed for easier labor than what I had with the other two. But most importantly, I wanted a healthy baby. Yes. That was the goal, right? Well, this did not feel any easier than the other ones. When the doctor said, was a C-section okay? I wanted to scream. No, no, like,
I think we all. I think I kind of remember
the cringe of the room.
Yeah, it was like, oh, don't ask that question.
Yeah,
that's like, a good one.
But it was just like it was relentless, right? Like I was going and nothing was happening, so I didn't want to, but I agreed. Once I was in the OR, I heard her cry for the first time, and my doctor looked at me and was like, the cord was around her neck. See, what I wanted was to have her the other way. That could have killed her. Yeah. I couldn't see the whole picture. When I thought God wasn't answering my prayer the way I wanted, he was actually using my fear to save her life. Yes. He was answering my prayer, but in a funny way, the way God can. He was using my fear to answer my prayer. Yes. And so only God can do that. That's a God thing. And he knew the whole time. He knew the cord was around her neck. He knew that it was strangling her as I progressed. And he could have easily let it be an easy birth the way I wanted, the way I had planned, but I might not have been bringing home a baby 2 years ago. And so when we let our fears outweigh our faith, we stand in the way of what God is wanting to give us. How different would Israel's history be if all of the spies came back and had the same conclusion?
You're like, no, thank you.
Yeah, but the people were big and scary, but God can take care of them. No problem. Like how different would history be?
Oh, yeah.
But instead, the 10 missed out because they focused on what they could see, not what God could do. In our life, when we tend to lean towards fear, whatever that may look like, we should focus more on what God can do rather than how big our fear is. Yes. I know it's a cliche, but God is so much bigger than our fears. Yes. This reminds me of last week when we were talking about like your dad and the spider and stuff. Like he was bigger than that fear, and yet we still worry. Yeah, like it's so goofy that we get so caught up in fears.
You're like, I know that you have this, and I know you're the one in control of this, and I can't do anything about it. But I think it's almost like a nervous reaction of like that's how we have to handle it, because like we can't do anything about it, so the only thing we can do is worry.
Right, like we have to do something. Yeah, so I'm gonna freak out and worry about this. Like I can't not. So don't miss out on what God is wanting to give you just because something looks scary. Trust in His promises. Come back, read His Word, spend time with Him. If you get closer to Him, your fears will start looking smaller and smaller because you're gonna start seeing how big He really is. Next time you're scared, step back. Look at all that He's already brought you through. Trust in Him so you can be like Caleb and Joshua and receive what He wants to give you. Do you have any examples or added to that?
The Jamieisms?
The Jamieisms, some mumbling you want to add?
That was my
That was good? Okay.
That was my attitude.
That was impressive. That was rather good. I didn't know the order I was supposed to do this. So I'm going to do the charge up challenge next. I would know.
Yeah, I think we always do it like a charge up challenge.
And then the quotes and stuff. Okay.
That's what I always do.
Okay, that's what I thought. But I think. We'll give it a swing. Josh can yell at me later for it. All right. So for the charge up challenge this week, I want you to look at your life, something that seems huge, impossible, and scary, whatever it may be. It could be maybe a situation at your school, maybe something with friends, maybe a job, maybe a house, maybe whatever that situation might be. I want you to start praying about it specifically. There was a situation in mine and CJ's life recently that seemed impossible, but like we were praying about it in a way that like
it could
seemed possible. Yeah, like though like this would still be God working, but like not like crazy.
Yeah, it's like we just like He would help a little.
Yeah. And so then one night I felt impressed in my heart to start praying a different way, and I shared with CJ. I was like, I think we need to start praying about it like this. In an impossible situation. He's like, oh, that is impossible. He's like, yes, that cannot be done. And so we started praying about it that way, and we've already seen God moving in it in such an amazing way. So that's what I challenge you, is to maybe start praying about it more specifically in a more impossible way. Yep. Today's quote is from, you won't appreciate this as much. I need Josh here too.
Is it a dead person?
It's my dead friend.
Them and their dead people.
Yeah, Corrie Ten Boom. That's who I am quoting today. When a train goes through a tunnel and it gets dark, you don't throw away the ticket and jump off. You sit and trust the engineer. Thought that was a really good quote.
Yeah, that is.
You to ponder on it. It's
because like it's a practical way to look at it. Like because you really don't. You're not you're not jumping
There's
out.
nothing you can do. You're on that train.
Yeah, you're stuck, especially if you're in a tunnel.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you gonna go?
Yeah. And then today's featured content is Waymaker by Leeland. So, yeah. Good.
All right, good.
Well, thanks, and stay tuned. I think we have one more episode of this.
Of the Frightened Faith, and I
Frightened
think we're
Faith.
going to move into November after
Yeah.
that, I think.
So, yeah. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.